Okay, everybody, so we are still here at Secureworld Boston. It is towards the end of the day, and my good friend Jeff Wilhelm, you all may know him as our CTO at Envision, has been walking the show floor. We actually were just out there together a couple of minutes ago. And we came back here and we were chatting about cybersecurity and what we expect from vendors, and Jeff said a couple interesting things, and so of course I popped the, hey, do a video with me at him. So specifically the thing you said that caught my attention was you were talking about how do vendors respond to breaches and what should we expect from all these guys out on the floor about whether or not they're going to have a breach. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, sure. So, as we're walking the floor, we're seeing a lot of companies, some of which are somewhat in their infancy, and some of which are, relatively established players.
Yeah.
But the one common thread throughout all of it is that these are really good places where a hacker would want to attack. Because this is where the credentials are stored, this is where information about your network is stored. And I think the expectation should be that they're going to be breached one way or another at some point in time. I think the real important thing is how do they respond to that? What is their industry response? What is their customer response? And what sort of timeline and transparency do they have on that response?
Yeah, it's funny because when I talk to customers about this stuff, I always get that question about, well, have they ever had a breach? And it's like the first thing people do is they get on Google and look to see if someone had a breach. And I think all the time about the number of breaches that just our own government has had, and organizations that we count on, like big credit agencies that we all read about in the news recently. And we've not felt the need to stop using those agencies despite the fact that they've been breached. But when it comes to a tech provider, even the littlest breach sometimes will scare off a customer. When you think about response to a breach, what are you looking for from a vendor?
Well, first it's about transparency. So the big difference between vendor A and vendor B might not be that one was breached and one wasn't. It might be how they responded to that breach. How transparent are they with their customer base and their vendor community, partners, et cetera? Are they being open and honest about what happened? And I love to see vendors that actually put out there, here's why we were breached, here's what we did wrong, and here's how we're going to fix ourselves going forward. That helps everybody in the industry, and it certainly helps us be able to set expectations to our customers.
Yeah, I'm absolutely the same way. I'm looking for companies that are not afraid to stand up and own what happened and be forthcoming about what they're doing about it. And to me, that's a great partner.
Yeah, one of my favorite. So Cloudflare, a vendor in the DNS, heuristics, security alert, all that sort of space.
A vendor that we use.
A vendor that we use,
right.
And many of our customers rely on and love. They do many things, and they had an issue, I think it was about a year ago, and their CTO came out and said, here's the actual code that was wrong. Here's why we screwed up. Here's an unchecked error or some bounds or whatever it was. It was really, really interesting, not just as a person to read it, as a technology person to read it, but to know that they were willing to be that transparent.
Yeah, and I think for me, like I said, it's the hallmark of a good partner that's willing to say, look, we're in this together, and here's what we're doing about it, and that's why I think we still use Cloudflare, right?
Sure, absolutely.
It's great, been a great company. So, what do you think of the show so far today?
Show's great. A good vendor community here. Pretty good amount of people here. I was just over in the keynote a minute ago, and the one that they do over lunch,
right.
And the room was packed. They were talking about amplification attacks, among other things, and really interesting stuff. It's great.
Give us the weather. That's when the weather attacks. For those of you in the future that are watching this video, we had a monster snowstorm just yesterday. Arrived this morning. This show floor was supposed to be set up, and it was a ghost town. So the thing's kind of just gearing up right now. So you were just talking about an attack a moment ago. Give the group 30 seconds. What's the overview of the kind of attack that was being discussed?
Yeah, sure. So it's an amplification attack, which means there are open resolvers out on the internet. DNS is a perfect example of one. And basically you could tell the open resolver, you're Todd, but I'm Jeff, right? So I could say,
and true.
Right, both true statements. I could say I'm Todd, and I'm looking for every IP address that Google owns, right? And that will start bombarding you with traffic. But you may not have wanted any of that traffic. I just wanted to cause a problem somewhere out on the internet. An amplification attack, that's a very simplified example of one, but that's what they were talking about.
Yeah, I've heard a lot today about emerging types of attacks and the use of artificial intelligence and machine learning in the market to try and combat some of this stuff now. And so for those of you who are watching, we will be putting some other videos up from vendors that are using those technologies, AI and machine learning. We'll put some links in the video for you. And Jeff, thank you so much.
Anytime.
Have a great show.
Thanks.